For me, the disconnect I see is from the community level. Like my elderly, the stories they tell about how in their generation, um, you could farm, you could see 30, 40 farmers out there all irrigating at the same time. When someone's ready to bale hay or someone needs help moving water because they're injured, there's always that community aspect where everybody kind of comes together and really helps them out. If someone's having a hard time, you don't really look down upon it and kind of like nitpick at it. You put the time aside to say, I'm going to help that next person out. My Che used to tell me how when people needed help baling, it was a whole entire community effort. How someone would bring the baler, someone would bring the rake, and then the whole entire community would be in one field one day, and then in the next, some people would be preparing food to feed the entire community all at once, and they kind of turned it into a celebration. He told about how in the old days, how when you go house to house, there was kind of that community like, come on inside, we have food ready. You always fed someone if they come to your house. You always provide food. You always provide them water. You always provide them anything they needed. If they needed shelter or warmth for a little while, you always invited them inside. And with my generation, just being out in the community, you kind of don't see that. And I think that's where that disconnect is. For us, we've been taught from predominant culture is that you have to do it on your own. It's all up to you and just you alone. When our last generation was really about, if you're having hard times, you can lean on someone that's in your community. You can lean on someone that's around you, that kind of stuff. And I've kind of seen it, just like I talked about. A lot of people, when you go farming or ranching, anything like that, they're always on their own and they don't really ask for help because they've always been taught I have to do it on my own. My family's we've tried not to be like that. Anytime anyone asks for help, we always put in that extra effort to help out because we've always grown up with that community from our grandparents. And the other time I've seen it is going door to door for certain programs, just knocking on that door, that next door neighbor, maybe the person that's a few miles down the road. We've gone to them, asked them for help, or not asked for help, but asked if they've needed help with anything, chopping wood, helping with anything livestock related. We've always been able to ask that. And a couple of times we've always been, you can't come inside. You have to stay outside on the porch where I can see you. They have that hesitancy to be involved with the community. So 102 years from now, that's something I'd like to see different, is the return of that mutual respect for the people inside your community and how you kind of work together to solve a common goal kind of thing. So for me, that's exactly what I would like to see 102 years from now. That kind of know who's around you, know your neighbor, have that kind of like support network to know that if I've ever needed help, I can turn to someone who's around me, or if anyone ever needs help, they know they can come to me kind of thing. So that's what I would like to see. Well, I was born down in the valley. I've grown up there till I was 10. I would come back to the reservation on weekends. But while I was down there, I was never really exposed to my language. I know my mom's tried, my grandparents have tried, but for me, it's always felt like if I can't do it right, then I shouldn't try it at all kind of thing, which is not a good way to look at it. But for me, I internalized that a long time ago, is that if I can't do it right, I just need to keep watching, keep observing, keep listening. But at a point, it becomes where you kind of feel like I'm not going to get it right. I'm not going to be able to do good on that. So you kind of internalize it that if I can't do it right, I shouldn't do it at all. But that's not really a good way to look at it. You should always be trying, even though you don't do it right the first time, kind of thing. And I've always had that problem. And yeah, I don't like to admit it with my family, but that is how I feel sometimes, is that when you make those little mistakes when you're trying, it really hurts you inside. So I think that's where my bind comes from, is that I grew up off the res, and I really never really heard my language. And once I finally came back, anytime I would try, I'd be kind of nitpicked at it. So that's where my bind, I think, comes from. I'm pretty sure it comes from that. So just like I said, I grew up the first 10 years of my life off the res. And when I came back, a lot of people saw me as different, I guess you would say. They thought, oh, you grew up down in the valley. That's so cool. You've been around so much different things, just because I was more involved in city life. But I wasn't really versed in how the reservation worked, kind of stuff. And then once I finally came home, well, we work on a ranch. So it's always, you got to do this in the morning. You always have to make sure you have clean water. You always have to make sure that you have enough wood if it's cold outside. In the summer, you have to grow your crops. You have to grow your hay. You have to work outside. You have to check on your animals all the time, kind of thing. And over time, I kind of finally learned what it means to live on the reservation. But I can always go back to living in the city, kind of thing. So it's always been it's kind of like a mix. I grew up on the res one half of my life, and I grew up off the res on the other half, kind of thing. So it's very different. So when I tell people I live on the reservation, they're so surprised. I tell them about the hard work, what it takes to live out here, the kind of effort you need to put in, and how I could see it being hard if I was just on my own and I didn't have my family with me. At the same time, when you tell them that you grew up part of the time in the city, they kind of look down on you. They kind of look at you different. So it's a little bit of both. I've always grown up as a little bit of both, as both living in the city and living on the res. So that's always been different. I have so many thoughts. Nothing I want to end the video with. I just love being a part of what I do. I love being a part of the community. I love being a source of help. And I really thank my grandparents for that.
I like his comments, and also has spoken from the heart as to how he lived. And he came back and wanted to express his views, and it can be done if you revive and celebrate as to where he's going. And he's happy about it, that he's in that position to express his views as far as the 102 years, and he wished to continue that journey that he's been talking about. He has gone through many journeys that he took, but it got him where he's at. So he has a lot of understanding as to what it means to make life on the reservation. And he's expressing his views, and it can be done. That's how I saw him. I like the comment he made. Very thorough.